In this video, we continue our discussion of the plan, protect, response cycle of the threat environment. We are going to continue with protect, specifically firewalls. So before we begin talking about firewalls, where do breaches occur? Pause this video, think about it for a minute, and then come back for the discussion. All right, welcome back. So the top three places that breaches occur are point-of-sale systems, database servers, and application servers. And you may actually have thought that these would be those primary attack points. And the point of sale, because someone's able to gain access to our financial transactions. The database server, because that's where the majority of the data can be found. And then an application server, because if you can compromise that, you can redirect traffic or do things that a company wouldn't normally want you to be able to do with the data or the people that interact with your servers. So in order to protect against these breaches, we want to implement what are called firewalls. A firewall works like this. We have packets that are coming in from outside the network called ingress packets. These packets hit our firewall, and if the firewall determines that these packets are valid, it will forward them onto the appropriate device. However, if the packets are invalid or things that we don't want inside of our network, it can log that packet and drop it so that it does not affect our organizational information and data. Additionally, we have packets that are going outside of our network as well. Our firewall is going to scan these to ensure that nothing leaves the organization that we don't want to, such as intellectual property. Anything that is deemed appropriate will be passed through, whereas anything that's not will be logged and dropped, just like those from the ingress packets. Now, with all these packets that are going in and out of an organization, we have to be cautious about what is called traffic overload. This happens when the packets begin to come in and are filtered, but then we get too many packets that it overloads it, that even legitimate packets cannot get through our organization. So we'll talk about some of the methods that can be used to hopefully prevent this traffic overload. So in this video and subsequent videos, we're going to be talking about several filtering methods. The first one is static packet filtering. Second is stateful packet inspection filtering. These truly are firewall methods. The remaining four perform similar functions to a firewall, and that's why they're included in these videos as well. And those include network address translation, application proxy filtering, intrusion prevention system filtering, and antivirus filtering. Before we can continue our discussion about these, we need to understand what a connection and a socket is. So on the left here, I have a personal device, and on the right, I have a server. If the client wants to connect to the server, what they're going to do is establish a connection between them through two different ports. The first port on the left here, you'll notice, is an ephemeral port. This is a temporary port that the client has decided to communicate with the server through. Whereas the server is going to have pre-programmed ports for specific functions. For example, port 80 and port 443 are for web applications. HTTPS is 443, HTTP is port 80. So as part of the connection, we're going to establish what is called a socket. A socket is going to use the IP address of the device combined with the port number. So the from socket, so this is coming from the server, which is 10.45.67.3, and specifically the HTTP application protocol, port 80. And that's going to the client device, which is 10.3.47.16 with the ephemeral port of 4400. So the socket is the combination of the IP address and the port number together. There are a few well-known port numbers out there, such as FTP services, as you can see here, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, that's how you're going to send your emails. The domain name system, that's for routing your IP address to a specific name so that you don't have to remember the IP address when you're trying to access the server. You have HTTP, you have HTTPS, you have POP, which is how people used to get their email to their devices, is that they'd actually download the email from the server to their specific device. You have Internet Message Access Protocol, that's IMAP, that's more of what's replaced POP, which basically, as you open up your email application and you click delete, it's going to delete the email. As you move it, it will move the email. So it synchronizes that between your email client and your device. You have Simple Network Management Protocol, which is going to allow admins to manage multiple devices. And this is used for pushing out any updates to devices, etc. And then you have Remote Desktop. There are many ports that are available. In fact, if you visit Wikipedia, you can see a list of TCP and UDP port numbers. So I encourage you to look that up. So click this link, browse through the list of port numbers, and identify a port that might be familiar to you and identify a port that you're completely unfamiliar with. So first, try this on your own and then come back for the discussion. All right, welcome back. So here on Wikipedia, we have a list of reserved port numbers as well as port numbers that may be available for random assignment. And if you look through a bunch of these, you'll notice some of those that we previously discussed. Additionally, there are quite a few other ones that you could use for specific services. For example, if you're using a MySQL database, you're going to want to use 3306 because that's the number that is usually used for MySQL, as you can see here. And if I scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll notice that we get up to about 64,000 here, but there are actually a total of 65,536 different possible port numbers. Thanks for watching my video. Feel free to click the links here to watch the next video of the playlist, continue to the next playlist, or subscribe.